We're back with the Encyclopedia of the Ancient World, and we're going to continue talking about Minoans and specifically their palaces and some of their religious beliefs. Okay, the Minoan palaces again were spread. There are multiple of them spread all over the island of Crete. Okay, somewhere around 2000 BC, the Minoans built several large palaces. Each palace had its own king and queen, and this lasted until around 1700 BC. And all of these palaces were destroyed by a series of earthquakes. The Minoans built new palaces on top of the old ones and continued to do so until they eventually were completely gone. Knossos is the largest of the Minoan palaces, okay? It was built and rebuilt several different times. The walls were mainly stone, where the roof, ceilings, and doors were made of wood. The design of this palace, and most of the palaces, was light and airy. They had a very good drainage system, and they decorated a lot of the areas with bull's horns, okay? At the height of Knossos and the surrounding area, it had about 30,000 people living on its grounds in the surrounding area. As we talked before, a lot of this information comes from frescoes that are found by archaeologists, and these are basically wall paintings. And each palace had apartments set aside for royal families. They had spacious rooms decorated with wall paintings, the frescoes that we talked about. And these frescoes give the archaeologists a lot of valuable information. The king of Knossos had some authority over all the other kings and over all the other palaces on the whole entire island of Crete. The king of Knossos played an important part in the religious life of the whole island as well. The king not only had power as a king, but power as a religious leader. He had a throne room where state business, and religious ceremonies would all take place. Part of their normal everyday life and part of the palace life had to deal with the harvest, okay? The harvest was important to their civilization, as it is to most civilizations. But one of the first things that occurred with their harvest was a tax. The king retained part of all the grain harvest and stored it at the palace. And they used this grain to pay for officials and craftsmen, to feed the people who lived at the palace, and so on. The rest of the harvest could feed the normal people who were growing the crops and things. And anything left over was exported around the Mediterranean Sea. And the profits were used for imports as well. They traded and imported things such as metals, jewels, ostrich feathers, ivory, and amber. The Minoan people also had scribes and a script. It developed a hieroglyphic type of writing system to keep their records. Archaeologists and scientists and historians today call this linear A, but unfortunately, they've not been able to decipher the current, the linear A, and so we have to base a lot of what we have information on other things and on the frescoes itself. The Minoan religion also, don't have a lot of information, but they had some sacred symbols that we're aware of that we found in the different frescoes and in some of the writings, symbols in the writings. And one was the bull. It was sacred to the sea god. And then the labrys is a double-headed weapon used to decorate pots and tombs and palaces. There was some religious ceremonies that were depicted. They were led by priests and priestesses, where music was played. Rooms were set aside for worship inside the palace. And also they used outdoor shrines in caves and on mountaintops to perform these ceremonies. And again, one of the things that they've discovered is that goddesses and priestesses were more important than the gods and priests. Another important religious ceremony or ritual was called the leaping of the bull, where the bulls would be running and they would run at the bulls. They would grab the bull by its horn, leap onto the bull, and then off its back onto the ground. Sounds a little bit dangerous to me, but apparently that's what they were doing. This leads to the legend of the Minotaur, okay? He was supposed to be half bull, half man, right? The Athenian prince named Theseus sailed to Crete. This is how the legend starts, right? He fought and overpowered a terrible beast called a Minotaur. The Minotaur is half man, half bull, and it was kept in a big labyrinth, an underground maze. And again, we're not exactly sure how much of this is legend and how much is based on some truth, at least. The king used to wear in different religious ceremonies a bull mask over his body, and so it kind of made look like he was a man, part bull. And the palaces at Knossos especially were very maze-like. And so there was probably some truth built into that legend. The Minoans also believed in afterlife, and they all died, and there was death and afterlife. They believed in both. And the Minoans believed that there was life after death, and so they would bury their dead with food and different possessions that they would need, and they used individual coffins to bury their dead. So just know that even though we have some information on Minoan, most of it's based on frescoes because we're not able to interpret or decipher their linear A script. But it is very interesting to continue to study. Thanks.